Hello and welcome to week 6. This week we're focusing on communicating to your audience. So be sure to thoroughly read through the week 6 lecture, Communicating to Your Audience. This will focus in on some different tips that you need to make sure that you're acknowledging that you're writing the essay toward a particular audience. And it's good for me to point out here that I am not necessarily your audience. You think of me, I'm the one that's grading your paper, but your audience may be somebody completely different. If you're writing about your particular field of study, a number of you are doing that. So then your audience would be either other people that are in that field or maybe someone that you're trying to educate about that field. So try not to think of me as always being the audience because I am actually the evaluator of your paper, not necessarily who you're writing the paper for. So in this week's discussion board, there are a couple things. Based on this week's lecture, why do you think the audience is so important to consider when you're writing or speaking, trying to inform or persuade? And then you will also share with us a situation where you had to communicate a message and how the audience to whom you're communicated influenced your approach. And this could be something you've done at work or family. It could be written, and it could also be verbal. There's also a new thing that I put on the discussion board this week. When you click on the discussion board, you'll see that I have the first post. And what I've done there is I've just provided an additional resource that talks about audience, specifically when you're writing an informative essay or a persuasive essay. So just take a quick peek at that and then kind of give your feedback on what you learned from that and the thread that I created. So it's just another way for you to think about and speak with others in our class about these two types of essays. All right, this week you have an audience analysis quiz. This is a graded quiz. It's a one question with 10 different terms that you're matching with the definition. So it's really a matching quiz. So it is untimed. You do have 2 attempts. If you don't get the grade that you want the first time, you can take it again. So just make sure that you have read through the lecture and you've taken notes and you're ready to do that. Another assignment we have this week is called the Business Writing Assessment. And the focus of this is, as we've been discussing these last few weeks, is how to be professional and what the tone is when you're writing a workplace document, and also making sure that your document is error-free. So watch the short clip. It talks about the 2 different choices where you just choose one. You're going to respond to an HR manager about flexible break time, or you can choose to write an answer to an interview question. So this is about 2 to 3 paragraphs. You want to use some detailed explanations. The break time one seems to be the most popular one because it is kind of interesting about how you would choose to handle the break time situation that's in that scenario. But just make sure that you're clear on the details. So in the past, students get a little mired down with some of the details about the different types of break time. You'll see that when you read it. So then this week, the past couple weeks, we've been working on, step by step getting ready for this essay. So this is the next step. So you've either chosen to write an informative or a persuasive essay, and you're going to be writing your rough draft. So I want you to write this as complete as you can. Also, with the assignments that you completed for week 5, the essential essay memo, I'm going to provide you with some feedback. So make sure that you're reading that before you write your rough draft. If you've gone too far away from the assignment, I'll kind of give you some suggestions to write back. Or if your topic is kind of off limits, or if it's gone astray from the original purpose of what we're trying to do, I'll let you know that as well as give you some details to kind of fine tune what your overall thesis is going to be. So you can kind of see, I want you to watch this video. You can kind of see in here where it has the intro, the body, the 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion. So on the announcements this week, I'm going to have a little graphic on there. It's like a hamburger graphic. But I want you to keep that in mind because you need to have all of those pieces of a hamburger to make a good sandwich, right? So the same thing goes with an essay. You need to have introduce your thesis and the main points that you're going to make about that. And then as well, the body paragraphs are all going to support that thesis and go back to that. And then your conclusion is, concluding what you had originally started talking about at the beginning with your thesis. Okay? So, as with both of these writing assignments, and we've talked a lot about this in the discussion boards about making sure that you're proofreading, looking for small errors, looking for homophones, words that sound the same but are spelled differently and have different meanings, looking for those. So one way to do that is to take advantage of our free tutoring service here at Bryant and Stratton. So if you go back to Student Resources over here on the left-hand side and click on that link, and then go all the way down to the bottom, you have what do I need to do to get started with Smart Thinking Tutoring, and you click on this PDF and it walks you through that. So you want to do that ahead of time. I would say about 24 to 48 hours to allow time for them to access it, comment, and then get it back to you. So you don't want to do this couple hours before you're going to turn it in. It's going to take a couple days. So you want to do it early in the week if you can. But you have free access to that, and I highly recommend that for just about any writing that you're doing in any class here at Bryant and Stratton. And the other thing I wanted to point out, since the APA is the writing style that we're using, and you can click on this site here, and it takes you to the official APA, which is the American Psychological Association. They are the group that is responsible for coming up for the standards. So it's the same standard wherever you go across the country. It's always the same standard. But in our announcements this week, I'm going to have a link to another site that I think is a little bit more user-friendly. It has it broken down. And this is the Purdue OWL site. And it has the general APA guidelines. Again, I'll have this link in announcements. It talks to you about what the standard font and size font there are, which I recommend everybody use 12-point Times New Roman. It's just easiest to read. It's easier for you. Remember that your paper is going to be double-spaced. APA does use a title page, so it gives you the example of a student APA title page. It'll look similar to this. The second one is for professionals. You guys aren't quite there yet, but you may be after you graduate if you have something professionally published. But otherwise, you just want to stick to the student one. And since this is a small essay, you won't need an abstract of anything like that. So also, you'll be using resources, so you have to make sure that you cite your resources to give credit, or otherwise it's plagiarism. So if you go back up here, they have the in-text citations, the basics, which shows you how to do that in your paper if you're using a quote, or if you're summarizing something from the paper, or you've gathered any kind of idea from the resource, you have to cite it because that is that person's property, if you will. And then it also shows you how to do the reference list. So, okay, if you have any questions, please reach out. Have a good week.